I'll give you the agenda, but here's the memo to it. Okay, so at 6:04, calling to order the August meeting of the Woodstock Economic Development Commission. There may be a couple of moments where we put some slides up, but I have not, normally we have the agenda and everything on PowerPoint, but we have copies of the agenda.
You have copies of the agenda if anybody wants a hard copy.
A copy of the agenda, yeah.
And then also I'm going to ask people to sign in.
Thank you, Sally.
I'm good.
Okay. You can keep that too. That's the memo thing if you
I
want.
know.
That we will refer to it at some
I don't know.
Okay. So normally we have a PowerPoint. We may put up one or two slides a little bit later if we need to for a certain part of the discussion. But I apologize for not having the PowerPoint for those of you that are addicted like I am to PowerPoint. And there's Mika. Okay, that's great. So we now have 6. So calling to order, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? And there are a couple. First, Sally, if you can remind me, I couldn't find.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about town plan updates.
Town plan update, okay. So we will add that under new business. I believe we need to add Beth, or we can add an agenda to the item, an item to the agenda to discuss food trucks. And I think that's all. Are there any other items that we think we need to add? I think those are the only ones. Okay. Citizen comments. So let me just summarize the agenda so that you know if you, well, I think it's a small group. Well, there's folks on the phone. Citizen comments. Hello, Mika. If the agenda today includes the following topics, if you have comments about these topics, our typical practice is for you to wait and comment then, so it's more in context. But if you have comments on anything else, feel free to make them now. We'll have a brief financial update. We'll be talking about the organization and scope of working groups. Pausing the we'll be talking about working groups in general. We'll be talking about establishing a new events working group, pausing the policy working group, and some other factors that affect the working groups. We'll be talking about an update to the town plan very briefly. We'll have a proposal. We'll be talking about food trucks and the possibility of using food trucks to alleviate the shortage of places to eat, particularly on Sunday and Monday. We'll be talking about requests for funding for the marketing work group that we covered last month and covering again tonight. And we have a minor request, God willing, this is the last time this issue will be coming up. This is the 4th request to fund an extra $823 for trash and recycling containers. I will explain that. And that's it. So if there are any comments, that's the agenda. Are there any comments other than on those topics? Hearing none, we will move on. Approval of the minutes. The minutes are posted. All these documents that we're referring to are posted on the website. Does anyone have any comments or make a motion to approve the minutes?
I have a correction.
Okay, wow, this is exciting.
On page 2, 10th line down or so, or 12th line down, where we indicate who's going to be the day-to-day contacts for the marketing thing. We have Jennifer, myself. We should also add Jen Schmitzky to that list. So
it was Jennifer at the inn.
Right, Jennifer, you're right, but we also have the Jen Schmitzky.
We have Jen and Jennifer.
Right, we have Jen and Jennifer.
Got it. Okay, so noted. Any other comments? Folks on the phone, by the way, you're on Zoom, you're over to the right, and so we may not be looking directly at you. So just speak up if you have a comment. There's only a few of you. If we get a lot more people, we'll change that. But otherwise, just interrupt. If not, could we have a motion to approve the minutes? Oh, sorry, question?
I think I should be added to the contact person for the website.
Well, this is the day-to-day for dealing with.
I do an awful lot of day-to-day work on the website.
All right, so if we can add.
Beth also. This is the day-to-day contact for the marketing agency.
Yeah.
Right, okay, that's fine. Well, I mean, you guys, I shouldn't say that's fine.
Yeah.
You guys are the committee, so,
No, it's fine, it's fine.
okay. All right, can we have a motion to approve the minutes?
On motion.
Patrick, is there a second? Joe, all in favor?
Aye.
Any? Okay, minutes are approved. Financial update. Just very briefly, the numbers again, as always, are posted on the website. I just want to say, by the way, Sally, thank you for keeping up these numbers, and we post our financials every month on the website. I think it's, it's great. There's been no change in our financial condition. However, August 15th, we should expect 15th-ish, we should expect payment for April, May, and June. And we are currently forecasting not an increase, a 35% decline from 2019, which is what we were seeing in the last kind of couple of quarters. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I think we all expect that it's going to be higher, whether or not it hits in Q2 or Q3, but it's going to be much higher. Yeah. So, well, we're talking about April, starting in April, May, and June. So, yeah.
Great.
So, knock on wood. We'll see what it is. Other than that, there's been no financial changes. Okay, any questions about the finances? Nope. Okay, hearing none. Sally, could you, or actually, I might, because Sally can't do this while she's taking minutes, I think. Beth, can I give you a cell phone number? And at a certain point in time, could you call Michael Malik and tell him that we're getting ready to start about marketing? Not yet. Would that be all right?
Yep.
I don't know. It's 508-243-8398. And I'll give you this signal.
I might be able to get it, I'm
All
not sure.
right. I'll also jump up and down, and I'll say that. Sorry, just because I know Sally can't type and call at the same time. Okay. Thank you, Beth. Right. Okay, new business. Let's start with let's start with the town plan update. Sally, do you want to just give us a quick update?
Sure. We had I'm chairman of the planning commission, just to inform everybody in case you don't know. And we had somebody come in that wants to do a village designation for Tassville, which actually will require us to rewrite the economic development section of the town plan, the chapter of the town plan. And for those of you who don't know, the town plan is actually used to guide our zoning regulations, but it's often used as sort of, it's supposed to be visionary, but it also points out some of the problems that we want to address in our community. And it's often used for applying for grants, especially state funded grants. So it's really important that we get it right. If we're rewriting that chapter for this task bill, I thought it would be good for the EDC to maybe take a look at how it's written. It's probably hasn't been revised for at least 10 years, so it needs to be updated a bit. So I would love it if if you guys would give comments and they can be passed on to the planning commission, or you could actually come to a planning commission meeting and we can discuss that.
Who's doing this, Sally?
Who's doing what?
The town plan?
This is a planning commission. I mean, we write
Yeah, I
the
know.
town plan
Yeah, but you mentioned something about the village designate
for Tassville. So
For
they
what?
want for Tassville.
for Jasper.
So they want to do there, but it requires us to rewrite this section.
Okay.
We
good.
also, at
Thank
the
you.
same time, we received a comments from the Regional Planning Commission that they would like us to rewrite our housing section as well. So we'd like to do all of this as much in one thing because it takes a number of public meetings to pass these. So, so in the next few months, we'll be working on that, but I'd love some input from the EDC.
On both
On
housing.
both the housing
Excellent.
and the economic development. And what I'll probably do is I can send you a link to it, but I'll also post it to our Dropbox.
Okay, that's great. And I would say, is it premature for us to volunteer now, or should we do it at the time when you send the link?
You can volunteer now, that would be great.
Well, I think the housing working group, I'm on that group, and I could speak for them in saying that we would definitely like to input on the on the housing piece. So that piece can be taken care of. Actually, could I suggest that we, as a way of as a process, that at the next meeting, if this isn't going to slow you down, that at the next meeting, we give a brief presentation of the bullet points of what the current economic plan is to the full EDC. And then at that point, we can provide immediate feedback and then see if there's a couple people who want to dive deeper.
I'll put that into our schedule because I know it sounds like a long time away from now, but we want to get it in by next spring.
Yeah.
So we do have to kind of move along on
Yeah,
it.
so put us,
I will
first
make sure
feedback.
I will give you some information to be able to comment on it.
Okay, great. And then we may dive deeper than that, but we'll
Yep.
next meeting. Okay. All right, any other comments? Okay. I think the way to get into the food truck discussion is to talk first about the organization and scope of working groups. And this is a multi-part discussion. The first thing I want to do is to put up a picture of the working groups roughly as they now stand. And just give me a minute to do this. This is not my preferred software platform, so I don't know how to do this. This laptop doesn't. Bill, I gave you guys the bad laptop, it turns out. So, sorry, this isn't going to work. I'm just going to abandon this. I'm just going to refer to it here myself. There are currently 6 working groups, but I'm going to suggest that I'm going to suggest that we head towards this list, which we don't quite have right now. The first group is housing, which is looking to expand housing supply. The second group is business development, which is looking to attract new businesses to town. The third working group is marketing, which we'll be talking about and has been operating for 4 years or so. The fourth group is downtown physical rejuvenation, which is thinking about parks, building facades, things of that sort. The fifth group is policy, looking to see whether there are barriers to economic development, and if so, what policy barriers, and if so, how could we fix those? And there is a sixth group currently, which is around village designation, downtown village designation, and taking advantage of the funding that's available for the village from that designation. The first thing I'm going to suggest, and it's pretty straightforward since Joe has really been driving, and I'm sorry, I meant to bring this up before, is do you think that it would be appropriate to fold the village designation into the downtown rejuvenation, since the funds are, yeah, okay.
Sure.
So just to simplify, one of the tasks of the downtown rejuvenation, physical rejuvenation working group would be to take advantage of the state funds that are available from village designation. That group needs some energy and direction and so forth, and we'll talk about offline about how to create that. So these are then the 5 working groups that we currently have: then housing, business development, marketing, downtown physical rejuvenation, and policy. We talked at our last meeting about the need to leave visitors with a good experience. That was really, during the discussion about marketing, there was a significant discussion about whether it was more important to do marketing, whether it was more important to leave visitors with a good experience so that they would do word of mouth marketing, all towards the same objective, which is increasing economic activity and visitors to Woodstock. A group of us, particularly the folks who were emphasizing the need to leave people with a good experience, which was Michael, Mika, Joe, and I, met to talk about what were we doing in the working groups to do that. And we came to some conclusions, and I'll let Mika and Joe.
Mika can do it.
Well, I'll let you comment, but briefly, sorry, hold on.
I don't know that I have anything to comment on just yet. We had a lively discussion. Oh, okay.
I'm going to summarize a couple of the key conclusions.
Okay.
And then let you respond and see if you think I've gotten it right. This was included in the memo that I sent to all of you, and it's a memo that's public on our website as well. I think we concluded that we talked about 3. I proposed that there were 3 aspects about a good experience: a good physical environment, activities that are available to visitors and residents, and the richness of the retail environment, which includes restaurants. So stores and restaurants, activities, and physical appearance. I would say 98% of the time when we're talking about making Woodstock a great place to visit, it's one of those 3 things. And so the group of us, and those were all issues that came up when we talked about visitors leaving visitors with a good experience. So as we discussed that, the group, a number of our working groups are doing things in that area. The physical appearance of the village, we just finished the Teagles Landing project. The working group hasn't really set a further agenda yet, but they have a charge to. The richness of the retail environment, including restaurants, the business development group is working actively on that. And Larry, if it makes sense in a few minutes, you might want to summarize how that group is reorganizing itself. It's got a very aggressive agenda and it's started to work, and I think it's going. We noticed that there was a gap in the activities bucket. We're not doing anything other than responding to community grants, which we haven't done for 18 months, to fund activities. And I think if you remember, Michael in particular is not here tonight, but was very active in saying that people have to come here and they have to have things to do, and there aren't enough things to do in his opinion. And so one of the things that we did was to agree that we would recommend to the EDC that we create an event/activities working group. And with a purpose, not necessarily of doing our own activities. In fact, I think, Mika, you were the one who sort of said that should be our lowest priority, but more to support the activities and events that are taking place in the community. Maybe it means encouraging people to create more. Maybe it means encouraging the big events to get bigger. Maybe it means something else. Maybe it means all of those things. But the idea is to establish an events working group. And I think, especially since Michael's not here, we can say that he indicated some interest in co-leading that, and Mika indicated some interest in co-leading that. Now, that none of that is firm. So Mika or Joe, you were also in the conversation. Mika first, do you want to add anything to that, or you provide some color or correct it?
Yeah, I think that I think you hit it right on the button. And, in terms of new events versus old events, or current events, I should say, I do think that there's a lot of discussion that needs to be had in that, including, to include Beth with that, and I'm sure a variety of other people. But I do think that making sure that there is something for people to do, there is an activity for people to do at every time of year, and that it's a robust experience is important. I do just want to clarify, I don't want to do events. Just to make sure we're very clear on this. But I am happy to help in some other way, certainly.
Right. Joe, do you want to add anything?
No, I think she covered it pretty well.
Okay.
The events that we have had, I think, have been received well by everybody, by residents and visitors alike. I think COVID probably caused a pause on a lot of things. We covered Bridge Marathon and a couple other things that were very popular and very successful thanks to the chamber. And at that time, we started farmers market. So I think it'd be a mistake to just kind of lull. I think it should be reactivated, and a lot of energy should be put back into what made it successful in the first place. As far as new events goes, personally, I don't think there's a great need for that. I think one of the things that we kind of missed the boat on is the annual World Championship downhill ski race that happens every year at Killington. I don't think we put enough energy into tapping into that market and getting people to acknowledge that Woodstock exists, and there's no doubt in my mind that Killington cannot absorb the traffic that it receives as a result of that event. And hey, we're here and we can, help make it a pleasant experience for you. And it kind of, in my view, segues into a rather slow time of the season where, of the year rather, where we can initiate a better image of Woodstock being a fun place to be after skiing and getting involved in that whole skiing environment, which I don't think there's been enough enough energy, in my view.
Yeah.
To do, but other than that, I think Nick covered it pretty well.
Okay. So anyone else, by the way, if you're thinking we're just going to keep creating more and more working groups, right after this, we're about to have a discussion about furloughing one of the working groups. So we end up with the same number. I think it's pretty good practice to kind of put some to bed if they don't need to be continued. So come to that in a minute. So any other comments, anything down here about creating an events working group and letting them try to figure out whether it's, what approaches to take, whether it's what Joe is saying or Mika or Devin, and then Beth.
I guess I just don't have any understanding of what this working group will actually do. As like, how is this adding value to events that are already happening? They're gonna come to us for funding anyway, because they can currently do if we wanted to.
Well,
Is there any functional difference between having a working group and having them just pitch the events to all of us?
right. So I had a conversation with Bookstock. Bookstock has come to us in the past and we gave them, come to us once. We gave them one grant about 3 years ago. Does anyone remember? It was before me on the EDC, maybe 5,000, maybe $4,000, the number sticks in mind, or it was about that order.
About that.
Let's say $4,000 or $5,000. So I went to Peter Rusmani, actually, he came to us to just sort of share information. I said, Peter, instead of giving you a $5,000 grant, and I'm not saying we would do this, but could you please come to us with a proposal for a $50,000 grant, which no event has ever done, remotely close.
Well,
say- Go ahead, Mika, sorry, go ahead.
no, please finish.
So, and then, I'm sorry, Beth and then Mika. So that would be one way in which, in other words, if there was a sort of a strategic approach, I'm not saying that is what we should be doing. I'm just saying that that the process of, I think we can say with reasonable confidence that the process that we currently have won't yield anything other than small requests for filling in gaps in funding. And that might be the optimum approach. This group can sort of figure it out. So that's one concept. And Mika in a minute, but Beth first and then Mika.
I just, as somebody that does events, first of all, I think it's an interesting group of people. I mean, I've seen Joe at all of our events. I haven't seen many other people at the Taste of Woodstock and from your organization or participating in Wassel Weekend, which is the signature event of actually one of the top 10 in the country. Money toward that could go a long way. But unless you're talking about money and or being able to either pay people because volunteers are in short supply or pay for marketing, kind of it's kind of a, you're going to lend now your expertise to something that's been going on for 10, 20, 30, 40 years.
No, I think we're talking about lending. I think we're talking about funding. Mika,
Yeah.
sorry, Mika, go ahead.
Yeah, so Beth, I can't see you and I apologize for that, but I don't think that that's at all what anybody is talking about. None of us have the expertise, certainly none of us have the expertise that you have. And none of us, I think, or nobody that was involved in that conversation in the first place was saying anything about the quality or about whether or not we're better at doing it than what has already been done. I think the conversation really was just about funding. And if I recall, and I don't know, I'd probably lean on Sally for this, or Joe, but if I recall, in the early days of the EDC, I don't recall funding for events being a very easy conversation. If I remember correctly, if somebody was already doing something and it was active and it was being funded, then I felt like they actually couldn't come to the EDC. I could be wrong, but I don't think that there has been a lot of attention paid on EDC money going toward existing funding. So I think the conversation really was just how can we help? How can we help with the stuff that you are already doing and just help you so that maybe you have access to resources that you didn't have before.
And that to me is fabulous. I mean, if we had more money that we are able to raise, say for the Taste of Woodstock, could have a headliner band come as opposed to what
Jim Yeager.
Jim Yeager and other bands, so we're having 6 bands come.
Yeah.
But you might get Dave Keller or,
Right.
somebody else.
Or we might get it to be on the Food Channel. We might get it broadcast on TV.
Exactly. It takes,
You know,
we would be happy
Yeah.
to work with you to look at next year, saying, okay, we
Right.
can have a budget of X. We spend $2,500 on blood seafood to bring everything into town. We have another $2,500 that you could spend on entertainment.
or 25,000. I think again, this is for the group to decide. But I think that it's for the group to decide. Now my bias is to do it on a few things and give them a transformational amount of money. That may be a bad strategy, but what this group would discuss that.
I think that's what we talked about when we met. That I think describes expansion. I think that's a definition of expansion. Just things that are working well now,
Mhm.
right? Like Taste of Woodstock, like Wausau, and say, okay, how can we kick it up a notch? That's what I think by
Happy to have
expansion.
those conversations.
Rather than, having a carnival every weekend, where there's something every weekend. I mean, that gets a little much. But if you highlight a few that have been very successful and again, expand them.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
think
the
that's a good
literary
approach.
festival, I think, having
Bookstop.
Bookstop, they changed their date. I think it's fabulous. We've worked together toward that date. I don't participate in that. I promote it like heck. It's meant for other people. But, it highlights Woodstock to another group of people.
Yeah.
And so if we had,
I
say
honestly-
5 events,
I honestly think, Beth, my own personal opinion, and I'm not gonna go on this, I don't want to take up too much time. The dog show thing, everybody has dogs, everybody loves dogs, I don't have a dog, but I mean, I think that could be expanded upon. There's a huge potential, I think, in that particular category.
I think there already are a lot of events. I mean, I think that the events that are already in existence are spaced out so that there is pretty much something during most times of years, maybe, I don't know, maybe stick season, but generally speaking, there is something for each. So I think it's just exactly what Jonathan said what John said to Bookstock, which is what would you do with 40K?
So any other comments or questions?
I think the whole idea of making the events transformational is a good idea. Not just put it on the map, but make it the map. Is a good idea. And there may be some events out there that people are thinking of to fill in places too, that, with the little money that they would, be a good opportunity. It's because everything's changing, in terms of, I could easily see some type of mountain biking event, which is huge now at this point. So
Yeah, and there is one, so it's been, yeah, so, okay, well, we don't have to do Devin, this is a very long answer to your question, but I think I think we're about to establish a precedent of if a working group gets created because we think it's going to have an impact, and it turns out that for the moment, at least, it may not, we'll shut it down. The group doesn't want to sit and just meet randomly, and Larry's about to tell us about that. So I don't think this requires any funding. I don't think we have to have a formal vote. I think it's really if Mika and Michael are willing to at least put some energy into organizing it, at least, and we'll see what they can attract. As is our model, they can attract people from the community, not just on the EDC. And Beth, I'm not trying to volunteer you, but people who want to participate can participate, and let's see where it goes. And 3 or 4 months from now, the timing of this, again, like all the other working groups, is I'm hoping that we can bring to our January funding meeting, some big proposals, or at least that we can elicit from the community with the egging on of the events working group, some major transformational proposals. Maybe we can't do all of them. Maybe we can only do one, or none if we have to put all the money towards housing, but or whatever it's going to be. But the idea is that it's now August. We've got about 4 months. Let's see what things we can come up with for next year's budget.
Well, and 2022 is when we should look at those things happening.
Right, exactly. If you started to fund it in January, by the end of 2022, one of them would have happened or
Yeah.
something.
Exactly.
Okay, so unless there's any objections, Mika, I'll ask you and Michael to at least figure out what your roles will be, if there are other people who want to recruit, and let's put it on the list of working groups and so forth. Now we can take one off the list. Larry, do you want to talk about the policy working group and what the kind of interim conclusion you reached?
Yeah, you made it the death knell already.
Right.
Our group was set up to look to see if there are any policy or regulation barriers in the town to economic development, to establishing businesses, and to see what we could do about it. The group was Jeffrey Kahn and Sally Miller. I always get
Coy.
McCoy, thank you. And Ivan Perella, who's since off, he moved to Texas, and myself. We came up with a quite detailed survey. We thought the best way to find out if these obstacles or barriers were there were to ask the people who might have confronted them. And so we decided to send a survey out to all the retailers, at least in the downtown Woodstock area. I think it was 35. We sent it out twice, not getting very many responses the first time. The second time, we got a few more, and the total, I believe, was 8 responses out of 35, one of which was from a member of our committee. The substance of the replies, we had some 22 questions, and they were pretty easy to answer. It wasn't like we were asking for a lot of time. But the replies we got, which I found very interesting, was that really, with one exception, the town and village were given good marks for being helpful and easy to work with, and there weren't any big problems pointed out. The biggest problem, the most consistent problem that was in those was parking. Pretty much, I think every one of them said that the current parking situation was detrimental to their business. But beyond that, in terms of getting permits or signage and that kind of thing, there weren't any significant issues brought up. Long-winded way of saying, we decided that instead of we could go at it in more detail and and knock on doors and I guess be even more thorough than we were, but we felt like that we interpreted the lack of response as being basically people weren't concerned. It could be other reasons. People don't like surveys, or the emails didn't get through, although we tried a couple of times. But we decided that given those replies, that we really didn't need to go forward to try to ferret out problems that apparently, the best we could tell, didn't exist. The only problem that that seemed to be out there a bit was a reputation for the town and village to be difficult, which we are going to address in a different subgroup. But the actual fact of the matter seems to be that, at least from what we could gather, either the problems that people found were not sufficient enough for them to report them to us, or they just weren't existent. So we decided that we needn't go any further than that at this point in time. The business committee may, in its process,
Business development.
committee, excuse me, may in its process find that in fact there are problems when you talk to businesses that want to come here and say, geez, we'd like to come here, but such and such is an obstacle or whatever, and then we would, either resurrect our committee to look at that or deal with it in some other way. But so we are all in agreement to sit back for a while.
Whatever the opposite of resurrecting is, that's what you're
Yeah,
proposing.
we're going to disresurrect.
Just resurrect. So any discussion of this or any concerns or problems with this? Again, we always can recreate it when we identify policy issues that are relevant. And we will be providing policy input on the town plan, as Sally asked at the beginning of the meeting. Any concerns? Todd, welcome. Todd or Mika, any concerns about furloughing this group or just taking it off the list for now?
I have one question. Did you talk to any businesses outside of the village?
No,
Did you talk to any businesses outside of the village?
Oh, and
Now, there's non-Woodstock.
no, I wouldn't.
Woodstock town.
I don't claim that we were, totally thorough, but we got as far as we did and came to the conclusion that it was really worthy of going out and just pushing further.
Okay.
Unless there's any objection, I just, again, a little bit sort of the opposite of what Devin was asking earlier. The flip side is also true. If we find that there's a need, we'll create it, but let's not just create working groups for the sake of having a list of them. Okay. So now I wanted to kind of get that discussion out of the way, because another thing that came up in this meeting that we had to talk about giving people a good experience, creating an events working group and so forth, was a more immediate problem, which has to do with the inability of people to find places to eat lunch. We had a recent event. Well, maybe Beth, I'll just ask you to sort of summarize a little bit what happened and
Sure.
either put forward a proposal. I don't know if you're ready to do that, or we can do it.
Well, I can just tell you that if you have heard from any of your guests or employees or anyone, if they come to Woodstock on Sunday or Monday, they are going to find, and Tuesday, they are going to find, and today, they're going to find very limited, if any, places to eat. You can perhaps go into the Red Rooster if they are not serving their guests. You can go to Montvert Cafe or Soulfully Good, or we've been sending people to Pizza Chef, Amato's,
Country club.
Country Club, and to no, they're not open on Mondays and Sundays. So we are, and I had a tour group come in, a Christian tour group 2 weeks ago, and they just assumed they could drop their 44 people here for lunch on Monday and, go to the village butcher and go to the
Mount Creamery.
Mount Creamery, thank you. And of course, they couldn't. And the woman was incensed, this Christian bus tour. And so, but that just brings to mind that we have a dearth of places to eat, and we need something. And Jeffrey tried to begin to, maybe put food trucks on the green.
Maybe Beth, maybe one of the, you should illustrate probably, one of the important ingredients of that story is that tour has been scheduled for 3 more visits here
On Monday.
on Mondays, and they canceled them all. So in my view, that is a symptom of worse things to come if we don't address it now.
And I had a woman call today who was only bringing 15 people, and I asked when they were coming in October, a Monday. We seem to be the Monday tour bus stop. There is no central hub of tour bus information. I have looked into that and discussed it at length with the state. So tangentially, they
In terms
may
of
hear from a
scheduling?
bus company.
In terms of scheduling, when they're coming in, right?
Right. They just do it on their own and assume. And so we need to do something. And I talked to my board today about food trucks that are food trucks. You know, somebody that sells sandwiches or soups or tacos or something that people could stand in line for, grab and go. And they are in favor of that and would like to work with you to pursue it, maybe two. You know, and you talked about the pie place, if it could be at the pie plaza, as I call it. And I don't know if there's any place on Elm Street. There really isn't any place, and the merchants do not want a food truck on Mechanic Street. We surveyed them today. Because that white building is under contract and to be sold very soon, and those 5 parking spaces go with it. So we won't have any access to those.
I wouldn't assume that we couldn't get access to those. I've spoken to the owner, the person who's buying that building today. She's quite interested in having anyway, she didn't commit anything, but
Okay.
it might be possible. But anyway, we're not
All
trying
I'm
to.
telling you is that, so food, we need food Mondays and Sundays.
So, Jeff?
Right, so as Beth said, I've worked on this and we created 3 permits, the village trustees. And it hasn't worked out that every Sunday they show up on, or Monday. We have the kebab house, which is some really nice food, Pakistani oriented food, kebabs, chicken biryani, things like that. And he had to take his child to an emergency room on Monday, so he wasn't there this Monday, but he promises he'll be back Sunday and Monday. And his
Who's that?
The
The
kebab.
kebab house.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's been there numerous days and done well.
Oh, on the east end, is that what he's talking about?
No, on the
No,
green.
On the
On the
village
green.
green.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Under a
And,
tent.
and also we've had Anna's empanadas on the village green. Although again, she doesn't show up every single one of those days. We've tried hard. We've tried numerous other food trucks who say, we don't have enough help, just like other kinds of businesses. We can't make it. The village trustees it's on our agenda for the August meeting to issue more permits in advance without knowing who would take them, but that they would be available immediately should we find more, not just food trucks, but also booths on the green, which is preferable to the food trucks, actually. What we need is food. We don't really need the trucks. But if that's the only way we can get it, right now, we need food.
Exactly.
So we're working on it. I don't know what else could be done. Unless any of you know food trucks or food people who are willing to go on the green.
Well,
And
one of the things that
and we limited it to Sunday, Monday only.
so one of the things that the proposal that I think several of us wanted to bring to this group is to identify a small group of people. I know Joe, I'm volunteering him because Joe is passionate about this. I know Beth is, the chamber, I think, has to be involved for, like seeing what the merchants want. We don't want to, there's been food truck controversies in the past. The EDC shouldn't be, this has to be something that's supported by the merchants and the existing business owners who I think will hopefully support it. To try to figure out which food trucks, try to reach out to them, to figure out where they should go. That there's some members of the community are concerned about them going on the green. The group can investigate wherever they think they should investigate. A thought was raised that maybe some modest financial incentives were important. And one reason for putting it on the EDC agenda tonight, because we could just volunteer, would be to see whether or not the EDC is willing to put aside some modest amount of money. My first thought was $1,000. Joe's first thought was $2,000. Neither of us know, if that's order of magnitude right, where we might want to try to attract a food truck here versus some other place by giving them, an incentive to come here. That would be total, or maybe we need to provide them with electricity or something, and we have to buy a long extension cord. That was an example you gave, or some modest set of expenses. And so the idea was for the EDC to delegate a group. This is sort of, has to be real time. I mean, finishing this up at the end of October makes no sense. It's fantastic, I think, that the village trustees are saying, look, if you all or we can find it, don't worry too much about the permits if it's reasonable. So I think the specific proposal in front of the EDC would be to identify a couple of leaders of this, and I think Joe and Beth could be those people, to try to, and to set aside a small amount of funds if they need it. If not, it would be returned to us, over the next week or 10 days to try to figure out I mean, I'll let you guys revise this, but over the next week or 10 days to try to figure out a plan, work with the trustees. It obviously has to be approved by the trustees. And then,
Well, let me say a couple of words.
Yeah.
I don't see the food truck concept as being a silver bullet to the problem that we're facing right now. But we have to try something.
It's a bandage.
What?
It's a bandage.
Correct.
Yeah, it is. And I don't know if it's possible. I mean, I had one discussion with one group, and they seem to be under a lot of stress because people everywhere are asking for them. And so what are the three things I think that are important are, well, John identified two of them, is where, meaning where in town would you locate one or two of them? What, in terms of menu, would you think be appropriate? And when, meaning scheduling, when can we get them here? And how long can we keep them here? And
on what days?
You know, how many days and all that sort of stuff. So that all has to be worked out. I honestly think that included in this discussion should be a couple of people who are in the restaurant business here in town, and ask them how they feel about it and what they think about it. I know that Montverde Cafe is desperate to have one across the street on Monday and Tuesdays, Sunday, Monday and Tuesday. We really love to have one over there, because I don't know if it's true of every establishment, but we have a great crew, but we're burning them out. They just can't keep up with it. We're taking this whole weekend off just to give everybody a break. I mean, it's costing a lot in revenue and potential income, but there's no option. Either that or lose them. And so it is something that we really think we need. Now, can we make this happen? I hope so. But what I plan to do, I talked to Sarah about this morning, she'll join in. I had a nice long conversation with Alex from the butcher shop yesterday. I'm sure he'll jump in and, you know, provide some feedback and suggestions and some ideas. And Beth suggested I get a hold of Courtney at the end. I can talk to him over the weekend and see if he wants to come in and join in the conversation. So will it fix everything? I don't know. And will it do the whole thing? I don't know. But it's something we have to try, because this incident that happened with this Christian Science group, I think if we don't look at it as a symptom of potential problem down the road, I think we're going to be making a big mistake. We got to do something about this. I think. I don't know what exactly yet. Maybe the food truck. I think getting more vendors on the green is an excellent idea.
Todd,
That can happen.
Todd and then Mika.
Todd?
Hi, first of all, hello, everyone, and I apologize for not being in the beginning of the meeting. It's my only vacation week of the year, falls on this day. I respectfully, first of all, there's an immediate concern, and Jeff and Beth, no, we all know what it is. It's a joke. People can't eat here. We all know it. So we need to do something about it. Throw money at the problem. Great. Let's get it done in the next couple of weeks, something immediate. But frankly, as a small business owner myself, I work 7 days a week, 90 hours a week to start my business 20 years ago. And I do it today if I needed to this week. And all due respect to example, the new butcher and that great ribbon cutting ceremony. And I'm not singling anyone out. It's everybody. Like, why are you closed on Sunday and Monday? You own your business. You started up. The last butcher was closed on Sunday and Monday. When my family came here, I was like, how are you closed on Sunday? We want to barbecue on Sunday. So just as an example, people need to go on both sides. We need to help people. Business owners also need to help themselves. if I could cook, I'd get back there and do it myself for one of these businesses. I can't, I'm a horrible cook. But what I think we need to look at, and John, I want to discuss this further, is the lack of wage that people are offering. We just looked, it was in the paper, an affordable wage, so to afford an apartment in all of Vermont is over $23 an hour. In Los Angeles, it's $24 an hour. So with a lot of stuff on the listserv and all these things is a bigger conversation, but I really think we need to get together sooner before our next meeting and really put our heads to find out what we can do to attract more labor with a livable wage. The livable wage is not 3 days a week for $15 an hour or 3 days a week for 20. Vermont has done the study and it's just shy of $24 for a 40-hour week to be able to afford an apartment in Vermont. We're not even talking about Woodstock. So what I say and what I mentioned to John is if we're selling $18 martinis, we need to support our staff, support our local people, and recruit outside people. And that's something that I am interested in spending 50 hours a week that I don't have with anyone else who wants to do it. We have money in the coffers, and I would like to find a way to do a sampling of seeing if we can get either current labor that's willing to work overtime or new labor to come in and perhaps make some sort of experiment on actually providing a living wage base. And perhaps we start in the village or what's anywhere. Who wants it? But again, if I own my own business, I just started, just me, I'd be working 7 days a week because my community needs it. And I know people are tired. I'm tired too. Been a long year, but we're here to serve the community on this committee and other committees, and we're all passionate about it. So I just urge everyone to think about this. What can we do to get people to get a wage that makes sense to drive from West Lebanon into Woodstock to service our food or to be our line cook? Because it's not $15 an hour, it's not 13, it's not 17, it's a minimum of 23 and change. That's basically my gist on the issue. And I know it's a complicated thing, and I appreciate you all hearing me out on this.
It's a great, I'm going to let Mika go. It's a great point, and we were supposed to talk before this meeting. I'm just been swamped, but it's anyone who wants to join Todd and I on this discussion before our next meeting, just let me know, because I think brainstorming about this and so forth, it's a very good point. Mika?
I'd be interested in joining that conversation, and to be honest, following that, I don't.
No.
My comment was just going to be, hey, does it matter what kind of food it is? Maybe it can be any kind of food, because you had mentioned talking about that.
Yeah, bring it all, Mika. Exactly. I'm
what
for you.
Todd
Joe
had
likes
to
good
say-
food.
But what Todd had to say is way more important than what I was going to say.
We accept all comments. All right, any other, well, sorry, let me just do EDC folks and then Devin and then Jeff.
I guess in addition to looking at providing, I'm talking about incenting food trucks or other vendors to come here.
Mhm.
To Todd's point, is there a way that we can incent current restaurant owners in town to be open on Sundays and Mondays?
Interesting. Well, that's sort of, I mean, a labor thing would do that, but not maybe in the next 10 days, but should we? Yeah, it's a really good point. Yeah. Jeff? That's a very good
I
point.
agree with everyone's points, but in terms of the bandage that I was mentioning, that needs to be addressed sooner. As far as where it should be, I really firmly believe it should be around the village green, where you create an atmosphere. And the more we have, the more it feels like it's a festival, the more it feels like a positive thing, rather than spreading them into different locations.
You don't have to guess where it is.
Yeah, and you can just say, there's food on the green. And besides, that's where the buses let off, opposite the bank there. It's the best location.
Yeah.
If you're going to add something in the village, to have a group there. So I think the immediate problem is, who do you know? Do you know anyone? Call them. If we can offer them $1,000, great. But let's get them there because we'll need it. Also, I think that in the month of October, at least the first 3 months of October, maybe the last week of September, it's going to be worse, far worse. And I think we should, I would urge the trustees, and perhaps we will, expand the permits beyond Sunday, Monday. I think Sunday, Monday is critical now. I think 7 days a week is critical for those 4 weeks. That's anyway my thought on that. And get pizza in there, get other foods in there, whatever we can get. I know there's a food truck that's supposed to be opening at the East End. That's on Ben Jervy's property.
Yeah.
they're not gonna do much business there at the East End, except while an occasion is happening. That's not where they should be. Get that truck on here, let them go back there for concerts. Mechanic Street, it's, you know, it's not the right location. You know, people don't see it.
All right, well, let's this is an agenda item for this group.
Okay. Well,
Other comments on this?
I guess, can I just ask one other question? As you had mentioned earlier, that food trucks have been a little bit of a complicated conversation over the years. If I remember correctly, and someone please correct me, I think that maybe there was a food truck or two that tried to be on the green some time ago, years ago, and it didn't fly. People weren't psyched about it. I don't know if there is any perhaps bad blood or ill feelings toward the town, the trucks that were on the green back then. But if so, it might be worth, you know, just extending an olive branch and making sure that they know that they're welcome here and, hey, we're really sorry. Please come back.
I would guess that most of the businesses that
I can't hear.
tried in the past are no longer active businesses. Permit process was that steep for the time that it would take.
So you're not, Mary is basically, I think you're saying, Mary, that you don't think that there's an after.
I don't believe that there's that.
Jeff, how much is it?
bad blood from-
Somebody comes in with a food truck, they want to buy a permit, how much is it?
$0.
No money.
No money. We're offering it, these particular
That's
permits,
that's a good piece of information to know.
these particular permits, free of charge. We offer free electricity.
Okay.
Todd, I'm sorry, Todd.
Well, there's
That's
other-
your pitch.
other
Oh,
ways.
sorry, Todd and then Larry. Go ahead.
You know, perhaps we should run some ads right away and let people know that we're open to fantastic trucks coming to Woodstock on these days in the immediate future. And then there's a 0 permit fee, and please reach out to so-and-so. Maybe we need to do some advertisement like right away. I don't know. Maybe there's someone right now, an hour away, that just doesn't have any idea that we're interested in having them for the reasons that were mentioned, or any other reason for that matter. Let's let people get the word out. And I know that's scary because you're afraid. I'm afraid that all of a sudden we get all this negativity and who wants trucks and whatever it is. We need food. Our job is to take care of this town, and our job in the EDC is to bring development. We need food. Let's let people know as wide of a net as possible that they can bring their food here if they apply for the permit and get it. And by the way, if you get it, it's free. Something along those lines. Look, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just riffing here, but maybe there's somebody out there that makes a great burger in a truck and they have no idea.
Can I
Hold on.
respond to that? Because it feeds directly on what you
Yeah,
said.
briefly, and then Larry.
I spoke with an agent who represents several food trucks. And the impression I got from him was they're booked solid. And he says, I can get you one here the 16th on Monday, but not until then. And meaning one of several that he represents. I think that's a bit of information we should process.
Yeah. Well, that's why potentially incentives may be needed. Larry?
I was just thinking that if the group does use EDC money, that maybe part of the arrangement would be to make them be committed to coming. It sounds like one of the problems you have is the inconsistency. You know, you can't really enforce it, but it could be part of just the arrangement.
Don't give them the money until they come.
Yeah.
Basically, you give them the incentive at the end of the,
Yeah.
if they've shown up on 8 out of 9 of the days, then they get the incentive, otherwise they don't. Yeah.
Just the-
Right.
Would the other part of it, can it be, does it have to be food trucks? I mean, can it be people who have catering businesses or, you know, cottage businesses where they're doing food where they can come to the green?
Well, that's the tent.
Preferable-
That's the tent
preferable to
option.
food trucks.
Right.
Not taking away parking spaces.
Yeah.
Preferable to do it the way Anna's Empanadas does it and the way Kebab House.
Because
I
to
think
talk
that's the way to
to
do it.
Todd's thing about ads, you know, don't just do ads for food trucks, you know, ads for food, you know, and have that make it.
We don't
I
need
love the
truck,
idea,
we
just
need
call it
food.
food on the
Right.
green.
Well, let me make
That's a great point, Patrick.
Yeah, I just want to say that several years ago, for several years, many years, the PTO from the elementary school set up right there where the buses stopped. They sold
The cupcakes.
burgers, no, they sold burgers, soup, It was perfect. They made a boatload of money. That's what we need.
So, all right, let me make a
I
suggestion.
have,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You get truly.
I can take this offline too, but I have kids in school. And so I'd be happy to talk to school people and let them know a couple different nonprofit groups within the school that are trying to raise money for trips overseas and such. I can absolutely let them know.
Football team, the hockey team.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think, let me just then put this into a proposal. And let's discuss, I'm gonna try to synthesize, but I may not get it exactly right. First of all, I'm gonna suggest that we set up two groups. I'm gonna divide the issues up. The food truck slash food tent slash
Whatever.
PTO, not for profit. Well, no, there's there's two food options. All of the things we just talked about, with the exception of Devin's suggestion about incentives for current restaurateurs. I'm going to come to that in a minute. We set up one group. We basically, it sounds like it might actually, from a funding point, that they figure out all the debate, everything we've been talking about, and come up with a plan. And I'm going to say, rather than just say, here's $1,000 or here's $2,000, after you learn information and talk to people, come back to a special EDC meeting in 10 days and tell us what funding is needed to accomplish whatever it is you've decided to accomplish. Because it seems to me that I don't think it matters to us. I think if it was $100,000, it matters. But if it's 2,000 or 6,000, I don't think it makes a difference. I mean, to us, because this is a problem that's bigger than that. So rather than set an unknown number, and I think because of this possible sensitivity of this issue, I think it needs to be a little bit more public. So let's agree, if you all agree to come back to a meeting in 10 days from now, let's create a group. Joe and Beth have both raised this issue. There's a number of people, it sounds like, who are interested. Let's create this group, assess all of those options, keep in touch with the trustees, and come back for the funding request. We'll also work with the select board to see if we can quickly approve that funding request. Because the timing is important. Hopefully it'll fit into it. Yeah, it's a small amount. So anyway, I'll work with Mary to try to figure out the process so it's not burdensome.
And then Mary will write you a check.
So that's suggestion, that's group number one. Devin's suggestion to me is paired naturally with Todd's suggestion about wages. And so my suggestion is that in those same 10 days, that a separate group, and I'm happy to be part of that with Todd and anyone else who wants to join either one. Let's think about, Mika also fine. Let's think about wage. It's a really tricky issue, could be a really powerful lever. Let's try to figure it out and come back at the same meeting with any proposals that we have there, maybe a pilot. Anyway, I'm not trying to solve the problem, but we'll come back at that same special meeting. Both of these initiatives, they don't compete with each other. I don't think anyone thinks we're going to run out of, we need as much food as we can get, particularly for October. Let's see what we can come up with in the next 10 days. Does that make sense? And then we defer the funding decision until we have specific proposals from one or both groups 10 days from now. So
I just wanted to offer on that committee that I had a long conversation with Maria Fredler
Yeah.
today from the Daily Catch.
Yes.
I think it would be good for you, for that wage committee, for
I've spent at least an hour with Maria on that
She said
specific
that.
issue, and yes, I agree with you completely. We would want to work with her on that. She thinks she might be able to open a new restaurant within the next 5 weeks.
Do you think it's important for us to make sure we have restaurateurs or people who pay wages at that meeting?
Well, at that meeting on the 10th, yes, but for that second group, the one that's talking about wage enhancement, of course, we have to start working immediately with, I think we pick a couple of tests. I think we have try something. That would be that was Todd's suggestion, but absolutely, yeah. So there's no funding request then tonight, but it seems like most people are nodding here. Larry, you okay with this approach? Okay, Mika and Todd, yes, okay. So that's how we'll do it. So Todd, you and I will do you're going to be the real leader of that, but I'll support you. And we'll send an email around for everyone who's here. If you'd like to join in either or both groups, terrific. We'll tentatively set a meeting for the 15th or about 10 days from now. We'll work on that in the next day or so to schedule that. Okay, great, good discussion. All right. I'm about to, okay, could you give Michael Malik a call? He may not be available. So the next item on the agenda is the request for funding for the marketing working group. So at the last meeting, we discussed bringing this issue up again. What I'd like to do is, I'd like to try again with my slide, because I'd like to divide this issue into two parts. The first is to talk about marketing principles, and the second is to talk about the marketing proposal. I think that we can agree on the marketing principles, and where the debate is on the marketing proposal, which adheres to those principles, but it's.
Hey,
Oh.
Michael, this is Beth
Oh.
Finlayson. I think it's time for you to, whoops, I think it's time for you to call it into the meeting for the marketing. I'm the person to ask. Okay.
Mika, let's talk offline about that. He said he's gonna call in.
Yeah.
Okay.
He said just give it a couple.
Yeah,
minutes.
okay, fine, he may. Okay, so is that all right, Patrick, as the head of, you and I have talked about this briefly. So what I'd like to do is, I'd like to talk first about the principles, just to get those clear in everyone's mind. And then we can talk about the specific proposal about how the marketing group is trying to implement those principles, because that's where I think if there is disagreement, I think that might be there. Okay, and to do that, I'm gonna share my screen, and I'm gonna try to do this. This may not work, but
John, is there any way you can make that full screen?
yeah, yeah. Geez, I can't. Oh, wait a
It's
minute.
like,
Yeah, I know. You can't. No, I can't even read it on my screen.
You can also blow it up in the lower right corner too. It says 55.
Oh, yeah. Okay, let's try that.
You can also
All right, I'll
edit
scroll.
the
So,
slideshow.
all right, I'm gonna.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they do
sorry.
that, you know.
I know this is ridiculous. This is not my normal computer here. Sorry.
If you go to the.
And minimize the other thing on the right.
Yeah.
If you go to the end of the bar. have-
Ooh.
have-
Now it's completely.
Sorry. Have I completely
So I would,
go where?
to presentation mode, start slideshow.
There you go.
How's that? Can you guys see that? It's not the right slide, but
That's it. My goodness, it's big.
yeah. All right.
All cut off.
No, it's cut off. Oh, Jesus. All right. You know what? I'm sorry, guys. I really apologize. I forgot this computer doesn't have the right software, and I'm just gonna read it. You guys, there are four here. We'll at least be able to see it here. So there are four principles that the marketing group is recommending we follow. The first is that we invest our marketing dollars, whenever we invest them, primarily in direct marketing rather than in other forms of marketing, TV, public relations, print advertising. We've done TV before. We tested it out in response to demand from some merchants. It didn't have much effect. We did public relations. We don't think that had much effect. We've done some direct marketing. What they're proposing is the most effective way to market is direct marketing. So whatever we decide to spend on marketing, for the most part, let's do it with direct marketing. That's principle number one. Second is, when we're ready to expand our direct marketing efforts, and in particular, when we're ready to start spending money to go after people, to reach out and to market to them, which is different than preparing to market to them. When we actually start spending money on media and on advertising and on incentives and on email campaigns and so forth, that we target three segments: potential visitors, potential new residents, and businesses with an interest in opening in Woodstock. So we're going to use direct marketing, and we'll use direct marketing to go after those three segments. The third thing they're saying is, don't spend a lot of new money on EDC. Don't spend any new money on EDC marketing until we have the right direct marketing platform. We don't have the right direct marketing platform. We need to identify what the messages are to each of those segments. What do we say to a business? Larry's been saying, came up with the phrase, we're open for business. It sounds good, but maybe, we can have a more, Larry and we're not marketing guys. Maybe it's not the right phrase. We need messages. What do we say to a potential new resident? In Boston, there's a big sign right by on Starro Drive, which said if you lived here, you'd be home now. You know, it's not there anymore. You know, it's brilliant, but we can't, maybe we can do that, maybe we can't. Anyway, what are the messages, right? We need an appropriate inventory of digital assets, videos and photos in particular. We don't have those. Beth, you brought up at the last meeting, we're using the same picture of whatever it is. We need an appropriate inventory of response mechanisms and incentives. We've never done that. In order to track people in direct marketing, we need to have, you get a t-shirt and then we find out who you are and we figure out that you listened to an ad. And now we know that you've been to Woodstock and that we've given you a t-shirt or a car thing. And that then spreads word of mouth because you're wearing the t-shirt or you're putting the Woodstock car sticker on your car. We need the ability to track the results and to modify our activities accordingly. So we need all those things. And we also need to be able to comply with privacy protocols, which Susie Stultz, she's not here tonight, but at the last meeting, she led to some great discussions that Patrick had with the firm that was gonna, deal with this. So the third principle is don't spend new EDC funds to reach these segments until we build the right platform. And the fourth is don't spend funds to reach these segments when we can't handle the capacity, which is right now. So let's not advertise, let's not spend money to reach out on incentives or media or advertising now, because what's the point? We'll just make the problem worse. So those are the four principles. Before we decide on whether to spend money to pursue these principles now or later or ever, does anyone agree or disagree with these principles? Are there any comments about the principle? Do you want to say anything, Patrick? Have I presented
Well,
them?
I think you presented it pretty well. The key thing is having a direct marketing approach where the key element in direct marketing is you measure and you change based on measurement. So the things that are doing well and producing what you need, you do more of, and ones that aren't, you stop. And by having everything having a direct marketing principle behind it and a way to track that, we won't waste money because we'll know what's working, what's not working. And so that, I think the direct marketing component of that is the most important element. Todd's got his hand up.
Todd, go ahead.
Is there anything new from last time, or is this just regurgitating the thing that I already support? But is there something new that we learned between the last meeting and this? Maybe is there anything we need to know that may change our mind, yes or no?
No,
from the last month.
There's only a new way of saying what we were saying last month. Is trying to. That's all.
Okay, got it. All right, thank you.
Clarifying.
Larry?
The only thing I would say is that in terms of actively marketing, I would think that we should actively market to businesses.
Yeah.
To move here now, not wait to.
Well,
I mean, I know there's not a platform for it right now, but.
Okay, so that's interesting. So that's what we've done in the past is we've done direct marketing or some marketing without the platform. Yeah. So what the marketing group is saying is of course whether we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't market. We need to market to businesses now, but we shouldn't because it's a waste of money.
Todd wants to come to you.
Yeah. So that I'm not saying they're right or wrong, but I'm just trying to clarify what
I gathered from what you were saying that we would be holding off on marketing when we're busy, and I don't think any of those
I think we can.
criteria really relate to trying to get new business. So when we have a platform up, I would just argue that it should be.
Yeah.
Correct, agreed. Patrick and
And
then Todd.
I even think we can look at speeding that side of it up. Because it's a different approach anyway. It's a much smaller marketplace. So I think there's a way to do that. We have to just look at it and talk to the agency and think about, how do we squeeze that in now versus later.
Todd.
Yeah, I think, look, I don't want to start a whole to-do here, but I'm just saying, marketing to businesses now, that's great, but the reason why.
No.
Oh no, Todd, if you can hear us, you just froze. And I honestly, I didn't do that. I wasn't.
Right at the reason why.
Yeah.
You missed out on something good.
All right, so oh, there you go. Todd, you're back. You said you don't want to cause the hubbub, but, and then we.
And then that's funny. That tells you to be quiet, right? The thing I think is important is marketing now. We need to support, in my opinion, the businesses that are here and tee up the businesses of the future. So going with this platform, the way it's laid out, I think is a great approach. You all know, again, I'm in favor of it, but just look, we're trying to open the Tassel store. It's going to be a year and a half. Like there's a lot of things it takes. So Mangalisa, for example, like even if all those permits went in today, it's going to be 4 more months, 5 more months before Matt could even open those doors. So we've been building the infrastructure is great. Let's not, if something comes up, we should talk about it and decide we want to spend money. If some business wants to move here, we get an inkling of it, great. But I think the plan we have now is awesome to invest in being ready to go gangbusters when we're ready to actually accept and have the infrastructure prepared for said businesses to be able to enter Woodstock and become vital aspects of the community.
And use as an asset, to bring a business here.
Joe?
So Todd, can you define for me when we are ready? When we are ready?
We're ready when we know the process to get a business onboarded that can afford to run and operate and hire employees at a living wage. A lot of work to be done there. For example, what Angela's working on with this Tassville thing, no one can open a general store $1 million in the hole, right? It's not going to work. Matt can't open his restaurant without serving so many people. It's not going to work. So there's a lot of things we need to investigate and steadfastly to try to understand how we can navigate the wage issue, the economic effects of that, what people need to do, how many days they need to be open. There's so much to it. I know nothing. All I know is that it's hard and there's a lot of issues that businesses have trying to open that they have to navigate.
But we're not there now, correct?
I think we need to be ready to go after them when we're ready to accept them. I think we need to have that
But we're
in
not there
place.
now, correct? We're not there now, right?
I do not believe that Woodstock's in a place to accept new businesses on a scale that we would like this day, this moment in time. I don't feel it.
And that's why we're
And
proposing not.
now, is this the time when somebody has an opposite point of view
Yeah.
to articulate
To the
that?
principles. We're talking about the principles. We're not talking about when to start. We're talking about those 4 principles. The 4 principles were that we basically want to use direct marketing.
Mhm.
We want to build a platform to do direct marketing
Okay.
properly.
Okay.
We don't want to.
But that doesn't say when.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Good.
So the reason I think it's important is I think we agree, I'm sure, I don't think Michael, I think,
Michael, you around?
yeah, Michael, we can't see you, so if you,
Yeah, I'm here now.
There he is.
I think, let me just, I think, and I'll let Michael, I'll give you and Joe the next comment, because I know that you guys have concerns about this proposal. Their proposal is to implement these principles. They think that we need to be ready to market to visitors and potential new residents. I think the business question is a new piece of this, Mika, that you brought up at our meeting, and we need to solve for that, agreed. But the platform can do that. They're basically saying that it takes 10 months to build the platform. That's what the professionals have told us. That seems, it seems reasonable. And they think that 10 months from now, we're going to need it. We're at 10 months from now, we're not going to be overwhelmed with visitors. And so they think, so that's their proposal, is to follow these policies, start developing the platform now, so that 10 months from now, we can be it. So that I know is where we have some disagreement. So that the proposal is, if we basically agree with the principles, the question is, should we start now so that we can advertise, so that we can spend money to reach out, give people incentives, track them, look at the success of that program at the beginning of next summer? Or should we wait? And if we wait 3 months now,
We all agree that
Joe and then Mika.
we don't have, this is not the time to implement that, right? Because we're not ready for it. I mean, 10 months from now, they say we're going to be ready for it. I've never seen an ad on TV from General Motors Corporation, want to buy you a truck with 3 wheels, because in 10 months, the 4th wheel is gonna come out, then it'll be a good thing to buy.
No, but they would plan their ad for 2022 now.
Yes, they
For the new
would, but
models
we
that
are
are
not,
coming
we are
out.
not General Motors. We are Woodstock for one.
But I can guarantee you that any destination location is planning their marketing for next season.
There's nothing I can
now.
see gonna happen, that the green is gonna disappear, architecture is gonna fall down. Woodstock is still gonna be a beautiful place 10 months from now, probably even 10 years from now.
Mika?
Change.
Oh, you muted Mika.
I was originally opposed to this idea until I started talking to Patrick and I discovered that the plan that's in play right now, the conversation that we're having is actually very different from the conversations that we've had before about marketing and public relations and all. And I feel much better about it, knowing that we could implement the exact same strategies for businesses, because that's actually, I think, the most important part. And I also want to say that I have not been able to reach anybody yet, but I have a call in to Stowe. I know a lot of people are regularly comparing us to Stowe, you know, like, well, Stowe has all this business and Stowe does this and Stowe does that. And everybody knows about Stowe, and people think of Vermont from, you know, New Mexico, they think of Stowe. Stowe probably spends a fair amount of money on marketing. I know that because I see their advertisements everywhere. And so I do think that there is an argument for spending this money. And I get that it's probably, you know, the court of public opinion is probably very against this. And I imagine that there will be all sorts of complaints coming in, you know, arguing with us over the money spent. I get that. But I don't know that they are necessarily, I don't know that everybody's looking at the bigger picture. When I say everybody, I mean people that aren't in this room right now.
Yep.
So those are my 2 cents.
I just want to clarify one thing, because I misstated the proposal. The proposal is to build a platform to be ready to market 10 months from now. The proposal is not to market, to go to market 10 months from now, because one of the principles we agreed is we won't go to market if we can't handle the volume. And so, for example, if in May of 2022, we've built the platform and we find we're in an even worse situation than we are now, there's so many people coming to Woodstock, every inn is people are violent, they're, you know, we're not going to spend the tiny amount of money in this budget to try to attract more people. We'll wait. Really, the question is if we ever want to do direct marketing, which is really the only effective marketing, we have to build a platform.
Yeah, I understand
Many of
that.
us think that we're going to need it next May. If we don't need it next May, we'll wait until we need it. I think we could all agree that at some point in our lives, we're going to need it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so the proposal is actually to be ready to market. $10,000, I think, or 12 or something of the 110,000 is for incentives and media. Is that roughly right?
Yeah.
That piece of it won't get triggered until we sit. In fact, I'm perfectly happy to make amend the motion to say we won't spend that last money until the platform is built, and we then see, are we in a situation where we feel like we need to attract people? And if we feel like we're not, we'll wait. There's no point in wasting. There's no point in making the problem
If you
worse.
build a platform now to be ready in 10 months, and if we're not ready in 10 months, or
You mean if
12
we
months,
don't
or 12
need it?
months, all right, so what happens to the platform? Is it still applicable
Like,
a year later, 2 years later?
it's still-
Or does that to be, we have to spend more money to revise it or
Well,
update it?
I'm gonna disagree with John a
That's
little
fine.
bit here.
Go ahead.
We may not be marketing to drive traffic, you know, to Woodstock, but it doesn't mean that we can't use it to drive people to move here or businesses to come here.
Fine.
You know,
Yeah.
it's a platform for us to use to market Woodstock in whatever way, shape, or form we need to, in a measurable way, that at the end of the day, we're not gonna say we threw X amount of dollars to this and nothing happened, because we'll know all along the way what's happening, because it'll be measured every step of the way. So, you know, that's what's very different about this than what the marketing that has been done.
So
in the
again,
past.
I'll repeat the question, I hate to be redundant, but if in 10 months, we see that we are not ready to use this platform, is it still applicable
Yes,
2 or 3 years from then?
yes,
Without a major
Yes.
renovation or
yes.
spending a lot more money
Yes.
on
The answer is yes.
it?
Okay, I think, yeah, so are there any, I think Todd asked actually maybe the most relevant question, which is there any new information? No, I mean, I think to be fair, we've had a lot of back and forth discussions. It's the same proposals before. We're trying to explain it better. Let me give Michael a chance because he made a special effort to kind of call in for this. Michael, do you want to make any, and then I'm going to suggest that we just vote. Michael, do you want to say anything?
Sure. I mean, first off, I mean, I appreciate all the hard work that's gone into this. I know it's hard to come up with all this work and put it together, and then some people don't agree with it, but that's kind of how it goes in these committees. You know, I'm not in support of this because, I mean, as a consumer myself, and I do a fair amount of traveling, and what brings me to places is not direct marketing. It's the fact that there's something to do, there's somewhere to eat, and there's something happening. And I think we can prepare all this in 10 months. We're still not, if we don't put our money into the so-called, bad term, but infrastructure in Woodstock, guess what? We're still not going to have that in 10 months. And we're still where we are today. And then we got all these people still coming, and maybe they fall in love with the place because it's beautiful and they move here. And guess what? There's nothing to keep them here. And so that's kind of where I'd rather see this money go into something hardcore tangible. And I know of 3 businesses that are wanting to open up in town now, and I'd rather see that money go to help these businesses. And so we have those things in town. So that's just kind of where I stand on this, and you guys all know that.
Yeah, and Michael, I just want to say that this doesn't negate your point. I mean, you know that we don't agree on this, but this doesn't negate your point. But in the other parts of the meeting, we were pretty faithful to those other issues. And so we did agree, we can brief you offline, but we did agree to set up that events group. I think people were very supportive of that. And we did talk about a very specific short-term initiative to bring food in over the next 3 to 4 months. That doesn't completely what you're describing, but also other ways of supporting businesses like wage enhancement and things of that sort that would go directly to the heart of what you're saying. The reason why I think that doesn't negate your point is because you would say that's terrific. That's good that the EDC is doing that. You'd rather take the $110,000 and have it go towards those things rather than spend it on this marketing initiative, which is what you ended your comment with. So,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, okay.
If I can make one last comment before you vote, I strongly believe that, you know, this recent event
With the buses.
really identifies the problem, and if anything, it supports Michael's position, my position about we're not ready for it yet. I mean, in 10 months, I doubt if we're going to be ready. We've been working on trying to get stores filled for 10 years, and that hasn't happened. In 10 months, we're going to be ready to say, okay, come on and have fun. We still don't have a diverse shopping. We do not have enough restaurants. We're lacking in a lot of areas before we can say, okay, or housing. We don't have housing for staff or anybody else who wants to come in. So, I mean, I think I'm not against the market. I just think program is way too premature.
It's time.
In my view.
Okay.
Right.
All right, good. So I think because we have people remote and because this is not going to be unanimous, we need to take a roll call. So I'm just going to go here, Larry, from you down to here, and then Michael, Mika, and Todd.
Okay, John,
Oh,
could you
sorry.
state
Yeah.
what the motion?
So the motion
Or
is,
is there a motion?
the motion is to approve the proposal that was made at the last meeting, which is basically to retain class. That is the correct articulation of it, not what I'm about to say. But I believe that what it says is to retain class 4, to allocate $110,000 over 3 fiscal years as broken down in the proposal. So it's not all new money to undertake the marketing proposal that the marketing working group has recommended. But the governing text is what was presented last time. Am I allowed to do that?
Well,
I mean, we've all seen it,
yeah, we've all seen it.
and we can just bring it in and read it into the record
Yeah.
subsequently. So, all right, I'll start with Larry.
Wait.
Oh,
just
sorry.
a second. If your motion.
Oh, sorry, I made the motion.
Not second.
Patrick, second. All right, Larry, in favor. Devin,
Favor.
in favor.
Opposed?
Michael,
No.
Opposed? Mika? In favor? And Todd?
In favor.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 2, and there are 8 of us. So, okay, all right, so the motion passes. Thank you all. This is, I think, a robust discussion. I appreciate the fact that everyone appreciates the amount of work that the marketing working group did. We wish the marketing working group and class 4 the best of luck, and we will see you in 9 to 10 months to see whether or not how we spend that.
If it
That
gets
money.
by the select board.
If it gets by us, that's true.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Mary.
So you said this is over a 3 fiscal year period that
Yeah.
I will pay 110,000.
Correct.
So if I know that you said it will be held over till sometime when you would need it throughout the 3-year period. So we never have to market during COVID. From mid-September till the end of October. You don't even have to tell anybody we're here, they come. So if in 10 months, you have this option and you hold back then and decide to do something, what is their time from when they start this direct marketing that you'll actually see results?
Right away. It's going to be the type of thing that's going to go out right away. And then we're going to constantly be measuring on a daily, weekly, monthly basis and making adjustments as we go. There'll be A/B testing going on where we'll send out, for example, 2 emails that'll be slightly different. The one that pulls the most response will be the one that will be used. We'll pull the other one back. And so it'll be constantly adjusting and changing based on the results.
Okay, so, you've got Beth over at the chamber, Beth and Kathy getting calls all the time similarly. What can we do when we get there? We're thinking about moving there. What can you tell us about the schools, that kind of thing? Well, she does that marketing as well for Woodstock. She or Kathy, whoever is working over there. I'm not sure. I don't quite understand what these people are going to continue to do that Beth and Kathy don't do. They're here.
Well,
They're right here.
the difference is that Beth and Kathy are reacting, and this is going to be preemptive.
It's generating.
Right. We'll be looking for people to potentially move to Woodstock, who will then give to Beth and her team to fulfill information and continue the process. The thing of this is it's like finding new customers. We'll be finding new customers in a sense, or taking people who have been here and pushing them further down the funnel.
These are gonna be those ads that come up on your computer when you turn it on, or
Potentially, it could be emails, it could be ads.
email. That's where I was going next.
If this is successful, Beth and Kathy will have far more calls to deal with, and they'll deal with them in a similar way.
That is, I have to address the chair, I know.
Jeff?
I have a suggestion that for the select board. That Patrick.
Yeah.
Spend some time.
Explaining how this works.
Educating the board about what this kind of
Yeah.
platform needs and the approach. Because I'm not sure that, Patrick's somewhat of an expert on this. Most of the select board is not. And so I just think it needs to be explained before you can make a decision.
Right. But what I remember is the first thing of advertising that you did when you removed and re-energized the EDC was a form of advertising. And what we used to hear when we would come to those meetings was this many people took a look at it, they opened this, and then they went here and there. But there was no down the road. And then the next thing you did was TV ads and that kind of thing. And somebody saw one on TV the other day. So.
Really? Because we're not paying for it.
Yeah, that's
Well,
interesting.
They're on now and then. And
Used to need to fill some dead air.
somebody saw one Monday. So although, yeah, they'll get more calls and how do you connect to make sure that this $110,000 is coming back to you? You know, in people coming, people visiting, people eating dinner, hitting the food trucks, whatever.
We'll be creating sort of lead generators that people will be interested in getting, whether it's as simple as guides to Woodstock, or it could be, we put incentives out there for, free lodging here or there. And each time that we reach out to somebody, we're going to be garnering more information on who they are, whether they're a skier, a mountain biker, a foodie, whatever they might be, and we'll be able to market to them specifically to come for a taste of Woodstock or come up for the ski race, or and so we'll be very targeted at how we do it. And to do that, we're going to build this platform that's going to collect this information from people, and they're going to raise their hand and say they want this information, right? And they can, at any time they can opt out. That's the flip side of it. But the idea is that this system will continually be building a list of people interested in Woodstock and all that Woodstock has to offer. But we won't be blasting it out to the whole list. We'll be targeting very succinctly,
Who are interested in what you are getting at.
Exactly.
One way to think about it, I think, is that there are people who have been coming here year after year, generation after generation for years. What this will do is find people who are the most likely to be the next wave of people that will do that. So people who are interested in mountain biking, if you target them and sell them on this is a great area to mountain bike, they'll come summer after summer after summer to mountain bike here.
I just have this vision of your marketing, you're reaching out, being one of the 72 emails I automatically delete every night because.
One thing to,
Yeah,
so I actually, I respond to a lot of advertising very well. If I see a good deal, I'm like, yeah, I'll do this. If it's on social media, I see it all the time. And I like how good social media companies have gotten at targeting these advertisements because they actually know what I want. And some people get uncomfortable with that, but I love it because they actually predict what I do want.
So if the select board approves this and you start building your platform, and is there going to be continual information
yes.
that you're going to garner from it?
Not during the building of not
No,
much
no,
during the
No,
building of the
no,
platform.
because
Once-
you're not doing anything.
Right, once we implement it, then yeah, there'll be a continuous flow of information, and which is the most important part of this, which is why we want to do a direct marketing approach to this, because the information will constantly be changing and people's likes and things will change, and we'll be able to keep that information and change with what's happening. Might be mountain biking is really popular right now, but it could be that snowboarding becomes real popular, but we'll know who to send things to and who to encourage to come. Who like we have people who want to come to Wausau Weekend, they want to come to a great winter event. We'll be able to market to those people who are raise their hand and say, I'm interested in, these types of events in Woodstock.
So you'll know like 25 people open the email and 15 of those people ask for more information.
Right,
You'll know that.
yes,
And 10 of them will come and get their free t-shirt
right.
after they've asked for more information. They'll actually, because some of the money is designed, that's the whole point, as Patrick said, I call it an incentive. Where some of them are, so here, let me just want to close out this discussion with one thing. So we have information every month right now. So here's the information from this month. 5,150 people this month returned to our website. They had been to the website and they returned to the website. That's all we know.
Townofwoodstock.org.
No. The marketing
Woodstock.
website.
Woodstock VT.
Woodstock.VT.com.
Yeah.
5,150 people returned to the website.
That's all you know.
We don't know who they are.
You don't know a lot.
We don't know why they came. We don't know what their email addresses are. We don't know how to reach them. We don't know what else
And
they've
how
done.
far down the line does that track those?
Well, a lot further, I
Yeah,
guess.
as far as we want to build the incentives into it.
Right.
The trick is to get people to raise their hand and say, I'm interested, and And once they're interested, then we can learn more about them because we can send them things saying, you know, you said you really like mountain biking. Well, we have this great mountain biking PDF that you might be interested in, all the great places to mountain bike in Woodstock. You know, and then they'll give us more information because they said they want that. We know they're very interested in mountain biking. And so if we have an event, we can market to them and
we'll know that of the 250 people that signed up for the mountain biking event, we'll know how many of them came from this, and who they are.
Will.
And what about if we're not ready?
Thank you.
I know we passed this already, and it's gonna go to the select board.
Okay. If we're not ready, then we're not
But,
gonna.
but what happens if we're not ready?
The data doesn't go away.
Say what?
The data doesn't go away.
What doesn't go away?
The data on all of these people doesn't go
Right.
away.
just
So we get to use it forever.
Yeah.
All
right.
Assets.
Yeah, all right,
And
let's.
to go back to,
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
well, I feel like, just to make the point one more time, to go back to your point, Joe, about, you know, capitalizing on what happens in Killington and skiers and things like that. If we know that X number of people are visiting our website to ask us about skiing or to look up skiing or to look for a place to stay when they're up at Killington, then we know that data, and then we know that that is a market that we need to tap into, which you might argue we already know that, but we're just using that as an example here.
All right, guys, let me stop the discussion. I think these are good questions and so forth, but I think it's 7:45 and we've passed this now. If the select board approves it, we have 10 months to build a platform where we can ask the question that you're really asking, which is, in May of next year, is that the right time to start to use the platform? And we'll have time to debate that and to discuss it in further detail. I just want to get to the most important thing on the agenda, which is the final, no, that's the second most important. More important than that is the final request for funding for the trash recycling containers.
I cannot believe this will be.
We were,
What's the rush? It's only been 4 years.
Someone's gonna run over
I would
to
like
us
to-
this weekend. You're gonna have to buy them.
I will explain after I make the motion. I would like to move
Get
that
insurance for them.
I would like to move that the EDC allocates $823 to complete the purchase of the 14 sets of.
For the 450th time, I second it.
All right, now, discussion. So we
Which
made
business
it,
model was it again?
we've ordered 14. This includes the 2 new ones that we approved at the last meeting for the East End. We miscalculated by $800 and the shipping was $23 more than we talked about. We thought that there was more. We made a mistake in how much money had previously been approved.
okay, so it's just it's a fix.
This is they've already been ordered. They're entering the manufacturing process. We don't have to pay for them until they ship them, but we need to ask and we don't have to rush this, Mary. We can come to a regular meeting of the select board. So is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All right, motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Michael, can you say if you're in favor? Because we have to,
Michael, you there?
we have to take up. All right, I know, but we have to take a roll call. Larry?
Aye.
Devin?
Aye.
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 Mika?
Aye.
Michael, if you can hear us? Okay, so I don't know, he abstains, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but we have enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's it. All right, is there any other business that we need to discuss? There was an item called trash can selection and placement, but I think that was a mistake. That was a repeat that we've already discussed that.
And other
Okay.
work group updates.
No, I think we made good progress tonight, so that's all right. Oh, sorry, Larry, can you hold off until next meeting?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, any other thing? Can we have a motion to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, everybody. Good work.
Thank you very much.
Trash can's gonna get here before winter.
Oh, I'm sorry?
Which is gonna happen first. Trash cans are winter.
Well, we're gonna have to
It'll be
see
here
if
in
there's any
time
more
for a
funding
market.
requests.
Yeah.